Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Lauren from A Menagerie of Stitches. Today we're going to be making the 12th and final mini from the 12 Days of Mini Christmas Amigurumi. Just look at this collection of minis we've created over the last 11 days. We've crocheted a hot cocoa, a snow globe, a drum, a Christmas pudding, Christmas lights, an angel, holly, Christmas tree, a jingle bell, Santa's hat, and a reindeer. If you're just joining us, all of the previous videos for this crochet along are available on my channel. I'll have them all linked in the description below so you can check them out. And while you're down there, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. If you'd prefer an ad-free PDF version of these patterns, you can purchase the downloadable PDF on my website, amenagerieofstitches.com. Before I reveal our final mini, let's go over the supplies we'll need for today's project. Remember, you can also find the full material list in the description below. Today I'm going to be using Hobie's Rainbow Cotton 8/4 as well as Friends Cotton 8/4. These are both a weight 1 or super fine yarn, and since they're identical, I like to use them within the same pattern. For Rainbow Cotton, we'll need the color Natural White, which is color number 2. Then for Friends Cotton, we're going to use the color Baby Blue, that's number 75, Chocolate, number 12, and Nougat, color number 9. This project is small enough that you'll only need one skein of each color. Feel free to use whatever kind of yarn you already have in your stash. You'll also need a size B 2.25mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, thin cardboard like a cereal box, black embroidery floss and a needle, a stitch marker, one pair of 4.5mm safety eyes, one pair of 6mm safety eyes, as well as some fiberfill stuffing. Remember, you can find the full material list in the description below. Let's reveal our 12th and final mini. Today is a 2-piece set and we're going to be making milk and cookies for Santa. For this pattern, you'll need to know how to make a magic ring, single crochet, invisible decrease, chain, and crab stitch. You'll also need to know how to work in the back loops and front loops only. Video tutorials for how to do these techniques can also be found in the description below. Let's get started. We're going to start by making the glass of milk, and we'll be using this color Natural White. To begin with round 1, the pattern states 6 single crochets in a magic ring. So I'm just going to create my magic ring. Then I'm going to place 6 single crochets inside. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then I'm going to pull this tail to close the loop. And that's going to be round 1. Let's move on to round 2. The pattern says increase in each stitch around for 12 stitches. So I'm going to place 2 single crochets into each of these 6 stitches for a total of 12. All right, and that's going to be the end of round 2. Now I'm going to place my stitch marker into that last stitch. And I'm also going to give that tail just a little bit more of a tug to close that hole. Now let's move on to round 3. Round 3 of the pattern says single crochet 1, increase 6 times for a total of 18 stitches. So I'm going to place 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and in the following stitch I'm going to make an increase. So I'll place 2 single crochets together. So that's 1 and 2. Now I'll repeat that all the way around until I hit the stitch marker. So 1, then an increase. And that's going to be the end of round 3. Now let's move on to round 4. Round 4 of the pattern says single crochet 1, increase, then we're going to single crochet 2, increase 5 times, then we'll end with 1 single crochet. So it's going to look like this. Single crochet 1, then we're going to increase in the next stitch, so 2 single crochets together. Then we're going to do the series of repeats, which is single crochet 2, so you'll single crochet 1 into the next 2 spaces, so that's 2. Then you're going to increase in the next stitch, 1, 2, and we'll repeat that 5 times. So that was 1. So you'll single crochet 1, single crochet 2, then make an increase. Then in this last stitch, we're going to make 1 single crochet. And that's going to be the end of round 4. Now let's move on to round 5. The pattern says in back loops only, single crochet 3, increase 6 times for a total of 30 stitches. So I'm going to place 1 single crochet into the next 3 spaces in the back loops only. So like so. Then I'm going to make an increase in the following stitch. And I'll repeat that sequence all the way around until I hit the stitch marker. And that's going to be the end of round 5. Now let's move on to round 6. Round 6 of the pattern states single crochet 30. That just means I'm going to place 1 single crochet into each of these 30 stitches. All right, and that's the end of round 6. Moving on to round 7, the pattern states single crochet 14, increase 2 times for a total of 32 stitches. So I'm going to place 1 single crochet into the first 14 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's going to be the end of round 7. Moving on to rounds 8 through 13, the pattern states to single crochet 32. So I'm just going to place 1 single crochet into each of the 32 stitches for rounds 8 through 13. And that's going to be the end of round 8. Now I'm going to repeat that again for rounds 9 through 13. And I will meet you back here once I've finished. And here's how your piece should look after you've crocheted rounds 8 through 13. Now we're going to add the safety eyes. We're going to place them between rounds 8 and 9, placing them 4 stitches apart. So we'll count from the bottom up, and this was round 5, so we need to get to 8. So 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Then we're going to insert our crochet hook in between rounds 8 and 9. This just opens up the stitch sum, and then we'll place our first safety eye. Now we're going to count over 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and in the 5th stitch, we'll insert our crochet hook, and then we'll insert the second safety eye. All right, now let's add the smile. If you're unfamiliar with how to add a smile, I do have a video tutorial here on my channel showing how to do it, and I'll have that link down in the description below. All right, then I'm just going to secure that with a knot. And then I'll trim that tail. Now I'm going to add the safety backings to the eyes. All right, and that's going to be the face. Now to make the base more flat, I'm going to use a piece of thin cardboard, and I'm going to trace the bottom of it so that way I have this little circle. All right, so here is going to be my cardboard circle. You'll want it to fit within the same space as this base right here. And then I'm just going to place this on the inside of the glass. And you can trim this tail so it's not in the way anymore. Then we will add fiberfill on top of this as we continue to close the piece. Now let's move on to round 14 of the pattern. The pattern states in back loops only, single crochet 14, invisible decrease 2 times for a total of 30 stitches. So working in the back loops only, I'm going to single crochet 14, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now I'm going to make an invisible decrease, so working in the back loops only, make an invisible decrease. Now I'll repeat that once more. And that's going to be the end of round 14. And as you can see, working in those back loops has now created us to be able to form like a cup, and then we will attach blue yarn at the end and it'll give us the rest of the glass. So let's move on to round 15. Round 15 of the pattern states to single crochet 3, invisible decrease 6 times for a total of 24 stitches. So I'm going to single crochet into the first 3 stitches. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Then I'm going to make an invisible decrease. And I'll repeat that all the way around until I hit the stitch marker. And that's going to be the end of round 15. Now I'm going to pause here and add fiber fill to the cup. All right, and now I'm going to move on to finishing the other rounds, and I'll continue to add fiber fill as I go. So let's move on to round 16. The pattern says to single crochet 2, invisible decrease 6 times for a total of 18 stitches. So I'm going to place 1 single crochet into the first 2 spaces. Then I'm going to make an invisible decrease. And I'll repeat that all the way around until I hit the stitch marker. And that's going to be the end of round 16. Now I'm going to add just a little bit more fiber fill to fill out the sides. And you can use a chopstick to really push it down into the sides. Now let's move on to round 17. Round 17 of the pattern states single crochet 1, invisible decrease 6 times for a total of 12 stitches. So I'm going to place 1 single crochet into the first stitch, then I'm going to make an invisible decrease in the next. And I'll repeat that all the way around until I hit the stitch marker. And that's going to be the end of round 17. Now at this point, I'm going to just double check that I don't need any more fiber fill. And you do want this to be sort of flat because it is going to be the inside of the cup, so you don't want it to be bulging too much with fiber fill. So right now I am happy with how much fiber fill is in there, and I'll move on to round 18. Moving on to round 18, the pattern states invisible decrease around 6 times for a total of 6 stitches. So I'm going to place an invisible decrease in each of these stitches around until I end at the stitch marker. So that's 1, 2, 3. All right, now I'm just going to fasten this off. I'm going to pull the tail all the way through. Then with my yarn needle, we're going to close up this hole. So you can kind of see, it's hard to tell with the white yarn, but there are 6 stitches here. We're going to go from the inside to the outside underneath the front loop only. And we'll do that for all 6 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then with my thumb at the base, I'm going to give this a little pull, and it's going to close that hole. Then insert your needle back into the center of it and you can come out on this side, pull through, give it a little tug, and that's going to close the piece. Now I'm going to secure this with a knot and trim. Then with a smaller crochet hook, I'm going to just go in and pull that tail to the inside, like so. And that's going to be the bottom of our glass. Now we're going to finish with the blue yarn. All right, now we're going to be attaching the baby blue yarn. What I like to do is from the safety eyes, I go straight back and I find one of the front loops that were left over, and I'm going to insert my crochet hook into one of those front loops. And with the baby blue yarn, we're going to yarn over and pull through, so it should look like this. Then I'm going to hold on to that short tail, and I'm going to chain one, and that chain one is going to count as a stitch. Now we're going to make a single crochet in the remaining front loops only for a total of 32. So that was our first stitch. Then we're going to move into the second front loop and make a single crochet. And we'll continue doing that all the way around. I'm going to place my stitch marker into that stitch. With the yarn needle, I'm going to weave in this tail. So I'm just going to weave it inside of the milk, come out the side, pull that through. Make sure not to pull it too tight, otherwise that little chain one will kind of disappear, and we do need that because that's our first single crochet spot. So then I'm going to secure this with a knot. Then I'm going to trim, and with a smaller crochet hook, I'll go in and pull that knot through to the inside, just like so. Now let's continue on with the pattern. For rounds 20 and 21, the pattern states to single crochet 32. So we're just going to make a single crochet in each of these stitches around. So insert your hook underneath in that chain one space, and that's going to be our first single crochet. Then we're just going to repeat that all the way around until we hit the stitch marker. All right, and that is going to be the end of round 20. Now I'm going to repeat that once more for round 21. All right, and that's going to be the end of round 21. Now let's move on to round 22 of the pattern. Round 22 states chain one, then crab stitch around the entire rim for 32 stitches. So to do that, we're going to chain one, and a crab stitch, instead of working from right to left, we're actually going to be working from left to right. So we're going to go back over into the stitches we just made, going this direction. So once you chain one, you can remove this stitch marker because it will just get in the way. We're going to skip that first stitch, so where we pulled that stitch marker from, and we're going to go into the second stitch. So you're going to insert your hook, whoops, into that stitch like so. You're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. Then you're going to yarn over again to complete the single crochet. So then you're going to do that again, going into this stitch right here. So insert your hook, pull up a loop. You should have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through both. And you're just going to repeat that all the way around. So insert into that loop, And after you make a few of the stitches, you can see the rim starting to take place. And once you've reached the end, I like to insert my hook back into that chain 1 space to fill in this gap. And then I'm just going to make another crab stitch. And now I'm going to fasten that off. Pull my yarn all the way through. Give that a little tug. And now with my yarn needle, I'm just going to weave in this tail. So just go into the back, along in that rim there, and weave this all the way down until you hit the white yarn. And then just insert it through one of the stitch holes on the side and pull through. Make sure not to pull too tight, otherwise it will make this go down a little bit, and we want it to be straight. So it should look like that. Then I'm just going to secure this yarn with a knot, and I'll trim the tail. Then with a smaller crochet hook, I'm just going to go in and pull that knot through. All right, then you can kind of smush it around. And this is our finished glass of milk. And as you can see, that crab stitch gave us a nice little rim along the top. Now let's make the cookies. You can make as many of these as you'd like. I'm going to be starting with the color Nougat. To start with round 1, the pattern says make 6 single crochets in a magic ring. So I'm just going to create my magic ring. Then I'm going to place 6 single crochets inside. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then I'm going to pull that tail to close the hole. Now let's move on to round 2. Round 2 of the pattern states increase in each stitch around for 12 stitches. So I'm going to place 2 single crochets into each of these stitches until I have 12. And that's going to be the end of round 2. Now I'm going to place my stitch marker in that last stitch to hold my place, and let's move on to round 3. Round 3 of the pattern states single crochet 1, increase 6 times for a total of 18 stitches. So I'm going to place 1 single crochet into the first stitch, then I'm going to increase by placing 2 single crochets together in the next stitch. And I'm going to repeat that all the way around until I hit the stitch marker. And that's going to be the end of round 3. Now let's move on to round 4. The pattern states single crochet 1, increase, then we're going to single crochet 2, increase for 5 times, then we'll end with 1 single crochet for a total of 24 stitches. So I'm going to make 1 single crochet, then I'm going to increase, then I'm going to start the repeat, which is single crochet 2, then increase. So that's going to be 1 single crochet, another single crochet for 2, and then we'll increase by placing 2 together. So let's repeat that again. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, then we're going to increase. And that's going to be the end of round 4. Now let's move on to round 5. Round 5 of the pattern states to single crochet 24. So that just means I'm going to place 1 single crochet into each of these 24 stitches. And that's going to be the end of round 5. Now it's time to add the safety eyes. So for these, because the inside is going to be so small, I actually don't add the safety backings to the eyes because they simply just don't fit. Instead, I melt the backs and press them flat against the yarn. Obviously, you don't want to give this to a small child or a baby, and I would never recommend doing so if the backs are melted. If you want to add the safety backs and they fit, then by all means do this. This is just my preference on how to add them. So now for the safety eyes, I'm going to place them between rounds 3 and 4. So counting from the magic ring, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then I'm going to insert the first safety eye. Now I'm going to place them 3 stitches apart. So count 1, 2, 3, and in the 4th stitch is where you will place that second safety eye. Now let's add a smile. If you're unsure how to do a smile, I do have a video tutorial here on my channel that explains how to do it, and it'll be linked down below. All right, now I'm just going to secure that with a knot. And then trim the tail down. And now I'm going to go and melt these safety eyes, and I'll be back to show you what it looks like. Here's what it should look like once you've melted the safety eyes. And again, you want to make sure that this is flush against the yarn. Now let's move on to round 6 of the pattern. It says single crochet 1, invisible decrease, single crochet 2, invisible decrease 5 times, then single crochet 1 for a total of 18 stitches. So I'm going to make 1 single crochet, then I'm going to make an invisible decrease in the next stitch. Then we're going to start the repeat, which is single crochet 2, invisible decrease, and we'll do that 5 times. So you'll single crochet 2, that's 1 and 2. Then we're going to make an invisible decrease. And we'll repeat that all the way around. So that's 1, 2. Then in the last stitch, we're going to make 1 single crochet. And that's going to be the end of round 6. Now let's move on to round 7. Round 7 of the pattern states single crochet 1, invisible decrease 6 times for a total of 12 stitches. So I'm going to place 1 single crochet, then I'm going to make an invisible decrease, and I'll repeat that all the way around. And that's going to be the end of round 7. Now I'm going to pause here and add fiber fill to the cookie. Now with this starting tail, we can bunch it up and place it inside of the cookie. And now let's add the fiber fill. I like to use a chopstick just to kind of push it into the spaces around the edge. Now let's move on to round 8. Round 8 of the pattern states to invisible decrease around 6 times for a total of 6 stitches. So I'm just going to place an invisible decrease in each of these stitches around. Now I'm going to fasten this off. I'll just pull that tail all the way through with my crochet hook, and then with my yarn needle, we're going to close this hole. So inserting your hook underneath the front loop, going from the inside to the outside, we're just going to pick up all of those 6 stitches. So there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then I'm going to hold my thumb at the base and give it a little pull to close that hole. Insert your needle back into the center of that hole, come out through the side and pull through, give it a little tug to close that piece. Then secure this with a knot, and then trim it down. And I like to use a smaller crochet hook to pull that tail through. And that's going to be the finished cookie. Now let's add the chocolate chips. For the chocolate chips, we're going to be using this color called Chocolate. And I'm going to take a length of yarn, tie a knot at one end, and then we're going to insert it into the cookie. So coming from one of the stitch holes in the back, I'm just going to weave it through to the front and come out one of the stitch holes. I'm going to pull this through, then give this a little pull just so that that knot comes in. Then you can trim that end, and with a smaller crochet hook, just pull that tail through so that it's hidden. Now to make the chocolate chips, we're just going to go over a couple of stitches like so. So I'm just going to insert it into the cookie, and I'm going to come back out where that yarn came up and out through the cookie. So I'm just going to pull that through. So you should have a line and your yarn coming out like this. Now we're going to put it back over and insert into the same spot. And we're going to come out the same spot down here. And we're just going to repeat that 2 to 3 times until you have a chunky little chocolate chip, or however thick you want it to be. And now after you've gone over the chocolate chip spot a few times, on your last pass, you're going to insert it and go through one of the stitch holes on the side, pull it through, and then we're going to repeat for the next chocolate chip. And I like to do this in various places all over the cookie. And once I'm done, I'll meet you back here. Then on your last pass, just pull it through, and then we're going to secure that with a knot. Trim the end, and with your smaller crochet hook, pull that tail through. And there is our finished cookie. I also made chocolate chips on the back as well. I had a lot of fun sharing these Christmas minis with all of you over the past 12 days. Thank you so much for following along. I truly hope you enjoyed them and were able to add some festive minis to your collection. If you liked this video and the 12 days of mini Christmas amigurumi series, please give this video a like and leave a comment. Make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss future videos. Happy crocheting, friends!